Hi everyone, my name is Cyrus and welcome back to my channel. Today we're here to talk about The Adventures of Amina al-Sirafi by Shannon Chakraborty. This book, before I jump into some spoiler-free thoughts here, this book was an absolute joy to read. It was so much fun. I read this book right after reading Catabasis and I could not have had a better palate cleanser. Just such a fun story. This book is the story, you're following this pirate, Amina al-Sirafi, who has retired. And basically something takes her out of retirement and she has to go back onto the seas and back exploring. And she hasn't been out on the seas for about 10 years or so. So she's a lot older, which makes her a lot wiser, but it also makes her a lot slower. And so it's a really cool kind of environment that you're seeing here, where she's a lot smarter and the decisions she can make are much more well-informed and a bit less brash than they maybe used to be when she was a younger pirate, but she's not able to do everything that she used to be able to do as a pirate, and so she's kind of grappling with that a lot. This book is just the quintessential pirate adventure. There's so much fun things happening in this book. There's magic, there's a bunch of sea battles, and it's just so much fun. There's an amazing found family in this book, and I'm a sucker for a found family book. And this book is that in spades. The pirate crew that we have in this is just so great, the way they care about each other and the friendships that they have. It's so nice to see. It was just an absolutely amazing book. It was so much fun. So to conclude some kind of spoiler-free thoughts here of the story before I start jumping into spoilers about the story, if you're looking for a super fun pirate adventure with a strong, super strong female protagonist and just a lot of awesome found family, then this is the book for you. Could not strongly recommend it more than anything. But we're going to jump into some spoiler thoughts now. So if you've not read the book, please come back after you've read it to chat about some spoilers. Okay, so some spoiler thoughts now. Like I said, this book was just so good. Just kind of like I said, the quintessential pirate adventure. I really loved that it started with the fact that Amina was already retired and she's already had this infamous pirate life, and that she's been away from it for about 10 years, and she has a daughter and a family, and she's kind of been happily living in solitude, I guess, kind of like in the middle of nowhere. No one really knows where she is. But of course, the sea's always calling to her. Like any pirate adventure, the sea's calling to her, and so she gets dragged back in. The way she gets dragged back in, I found to be really interesting. The fact that there's this mystery about Asif and his family and what happened to him, and you're kind of like, okay, like what happened here? You're really curious about that. But obviously, with the promise of just a buttload of money, Amina can't turn it down, and so she goes back to sea. And as she does that, you get to kind of slowly start getting introduced to her old crewmates as she goes to kind of collect them again. And so you're first introduced to Delilah, and I absolutely loved Delilah. I think what was so nice about this story is the fact that she was retired, and so she had this long life with these crewmates already. You are just able to see right off the bat the chemistry and camaraderie between all of these people that she's kind of gathering. Like her and Delilah, just without a doubt, such a strong relationship there. And Delilah's just super cool. The mistress of poisons, just all of these experiments that she's running and everything like that. It's just a really cool character there, this little kind of assassin. And so they pick up Delilah and kind of go off to find Tinbu. And of course, as they do, Tinbu is taken prisoner. And so now there's a jailbreak that has to happen. So really cool. I really liked how that jailbreak kind of scene was, that they sneak in. And I also really like the fact that, you know, this story is taking place, I think they said, in and around the kind of 800s. And so there's this kind of mentality of, oh, women can't do anything, or they're not a threat. And of course, that is not the case with Amina or with Delilah, but they use that to their advantage. And I really like how that happens. I like how they kind of use the, I guess, stupidness of men to their advantage and kind of just exploit that. I think that's really cool. And so they do that here, and obviously end up breaking Tinbu out. And right here, this is, you know, maybe a quarter of the way through the story. Again, you're going to see that relationship with Tinbu. She breaks out all of his crew. But what I really liked is that Tinbu ends up to be gay, or at least he has a male lover. And it's just kind of accepted. There's no conversations about it. Just like, yeah, this is what it is, and we accept you for it no matter what. And I'm kind of jumping a little bit ahead here, but this is all kind of, to me, part of what made this book so good, was that eventually when they find Dunya, and Dunya gets kind of taken in, and Amina's having these conversations with her, and Amina basically finds out, or basically Dunya kind of comes out to Amina that she, or they, are transgender, or at least feel that way, and don't really know what to feel about it. And Amina's just kind of responsive, hey, listen, all good. On the ship, we don't care who you are, we just care that you are who you want to be. And I don't know, I just really loved that aspect of the story, that they kind of lightly touched upon these topics and did it in such a, I don't know, positive way. There's obviously some stigma there around it still, but like overall, the way that it was handled to me was just really well done. Really well done. I really liked that. But anyways, they grab Tinbu up, and just all these scenes, like I said, the jailbreak, them kind of about to ram through the pirate ships, just really getting to see how good Amina is at being a Nakuda, or Nakuda, that captain. And she's just such a great Nakuda, and it's awesome to see. And she's quickly gaining the respect of the crew that Tinbu held, and they go off to meet the informant of the Frank, and we get and basically find out, oh no, there's this magic in place, right? He starts throwing up coins because he was about to betray Falco, and immediately there's this sense of, oh no, this is a lot bigger than we thought it could have been. Way bigger than we thought it could have been. And she goes back and tries to basically say to Saida, to Dunya's grandmother, listen, super sorry about this. This is beyond my pay grade. Thank you so much. I hope you find your granddaughter. And the Saida blackmails her and says, I have people basically watching your house that at any moment could go in and kill your daughter. And so Amina is basically forced, her hand is forced to go in and try and deal with these factors way beyond her control. And then they end up going to say, okay, well, if we're going to do this, we need our last member of the crew, and they go find Majed. And Majed was such a cool character, at least the relationship that him and Amina had, that introduction where Amina kind of just bursts into his home and kind of like sneaks into the family dinner. She's having dinner, all these like fun conversations with Majid's wife and his children and his extended family. And you find out at the end that although Amina's been trying to basically pretend that she's just an old friend, that the wife knew it was Amina all along, and that Majid has not concealed anything from her. I just really liked all of that, and how Majid said, you know what, if you guys are going on this adventure, then you're going to need me because I don't trust you guys to do this by yourselves. And just the crew's back together. And what I think is a really cool feeling is that we've never met this crew. We don't know who this crew are, but I just got such a strong feeling of, oh man, the crew is back together again. And you feel it. Like I said, you feel the camaraderie. You feel the history between all of these people. And it's really cool to get to see that in such a short period of time. And I think Shannon does a really good job of portraying that just so effectively. So I really absolutely love that. Like I said, the found family aspect of the story, to me, is one of the huge highlights of the story. But they go off with Majed, and so now the whole crew's back together. And I think this is where, for me, the meat, the bulk of the story really starts to get kind of crazy and just really starts to kind of barrel downhill from here in a good way, where things start happening. They meet Falco, and Amina kind of gets captured. She's forced to drink this potion, gets saved by her crew that she told to leave, but they're not leaving her behind. I'm a real sucker for moments like that, where somebody tries to act the hero and say, you guys go, I've got this. And despite that, their friends stay back and save them. I'm a real sucker, and that happens a couple times in this story, where Amina tries to be the big shot, the hero, and says, you guys run off, I got this. And her crewmates are just like, yeah, right, no way we're running off. We're here for you, we're going to help you, we're all in this together. And I love it. It's just so good, and it was just executed so well in this story. It was just so good. And of course, we meet Raksh, Amina's husband, and start to learn more about him a little bit and kind of what happened there, the background and the story behind that. And we find out that most likely Mariana is half demon or half monster of some kind, and Amina doesn't really know what that means for her daughter. And so there's this really cool, tricky future for Amina and her daughter of, okay, what's going to happen here? How is this going to come into effect later? But again, nonetheless, I'm getting sidetracked quite a lot here. Amina gets captured. She escapes. Raksh pulls out this, I don't know, sucker stinger from her chest, and they run off. and they go off to try and find Dunya. They find Dunya in the ocean, take her back, and this is where the big Leviathan sea monster that is basically featured on the cover right here comes in and just basically all but destroys the ship on Falco's command. And Amina's just no match for the situation. She cannot handle it, and effectively cuts a deal. Her and Dunya cut a deal with Falco that if he doesn't harm the crew, then they'll give up the ship. And so he does that, and they do that. But in doing that, he stabs Amina with her own dagger and tosses her off the ship overboard. And now Amina's drifting off in the ocean, manages to catch some debris, and is drifting off for, I think it said, a couple weeks. And she's just kind of scrounging together what she can from the dew, the morning dew. She's collecting rain, catching fish if she can do it, but is basically going insane on the water. And I'll tell you, new fear unlocked for me. I already was a bit scared of the ocean, but the idea of just drifting on nothingness and saying, okay, well, hopefully I find something. And she's trying her best to row with this kind of makeshift row that she made, but she has no idea which direction she's going, where land is. Yeah. This book, I will say, if you have a vivid imagination, there's some horror elements to this book. Like, to me, that whole sequence was very scary to think about, to consider. There's some monsters that are described in just vivid detail that are just scary. Yeah, if you have a vivid imagination, this story could have a bit of horror elements to it, I would say. Just a tad. That's not the main aspect for sure, but there's a little bit of that for sure in this story. But she washes up on this island, and all of a sudden, based on washing up on this island, based on eating and drinking from the island, this magical island, she gains powers and effectively becomes a transgression. Now, the scene with the, what are they called? Pira, the bird people. I didn't love that scene. I thought it was a little bit odd, not fully fleshed out enough, I think, for me. I expect that in future stories, future iterations of the stories, that we'll get to learn more and more about these people, about the magical realms, and so that might be explained later on. But as it stood in this book, I wasn't a huge fan of that scene. That was basically the only scene in the whole story that I was not a huge fan of. But eventually they managed to barter their way out of the situation, and Amina now has to go and destroy 5 transgressions for these bird people. First of which being the Moon of Saba. And so, obviously, when I read this as an avid reader, I'm like, okay, this is the series bait right here. 1 book per transgression. This is what we're doing. The first one's right now. So, really excited about that. And they've already announced the second book. I'm kind of happy that I've been delayed and not reading this, and that I only found out about it more recently, because that means that I'm really close to now the second book coming out. I think it's coming out in about 5 or 6 months. And so I'm really excited to see that and read that when that comes out, because this book is just so much fun. But Amina gets off, and now she's basically magically enhanced and is able to go and take on Falco. And that whole scene where she's trying to free the Leviathan, and she develops this connection with it because of this favor that she freed him, diving into the cave to try and save Dunya. That whole situation, the fact that she's cutting the binds off of people that no one else can see and kind of breaking the magic and magical connections. Again, there's a couple of moments where she's in a bad way and gets saved by her crewmates. And just, yeah, that last, I don't know, maybe let's say 1/8 of the book is just awesome. Just jam-packed with action and just really nice emotional moments. And of course, in the end, she's able to defeat Falco with the help of the sea monster that she's helped escape and bonded to for a short while. And just so satisfying. The ending was so satisfying. I was really kind of worried going into the ending of this book, because I had loved it so much up until that point that I was hoping beyond hope that it could stick the landing. Because some books, you know, you read them and you get to the end and yeah, it just doesn't stick the landing. But this book, I'll tell you, it stuck it hard. It was so good. Yeah, I just loved it. And at the end now, when they're kind of going back to their families and kind of getting that wrap up to the story, and you find out that all along, Jamal, the scribe that's been writing this story that you've been kind of reading about, has been Dunya, and Dunya's transitioned. Just awesome. Just awesome. Just so cool. Such a surprise that I did not see coming, but just so well deserved. And that now Dunya is a part of the crew, and he is just there doing his thing as Jamal. And yeah, just, I loved it. It was so good. I feel like I can't say more good things about this story. It was just an absolute blast to read. So overall, The Adventures of Amina al-Sirafi is just an amazing book. I really, really loved it. I basically can't say more good things about it. I would rate this book a 4.5 out of 5 stars. It is a near perfect book to me, other than a couple of scenes that are a little bit weird and that are a bit confusing, that might get better explanations in later books and might kind of come back to those scenes in the future and say this is actually really well thought out. But as it stands, a little bit weird to me, but overall just an absolutely amazing story. I would recommend this story to pretty much anybody. It is just so good. Pirate adventure, a bit of magic thrown in, found family, and it talks about certain topics in just a really cool way that I hadn't seen done before, and so I really appreciated that being done as well. Just a really, truly amazing read, and I'm really happy that I've read The Adventures of Amina al-Sirafi. And if you read it right now, the sequel's coming out in May in a few months, and so you're going to be really well set up to read the sequel when it comes out, the second book of the series. So highly, highly recommend reading this book from me. What did you think? Have you read The Adventures of Amina al-Sirafi? What did you think about it if you did? Did you like it as much as I did? Did it not do it for you maybe in some way? I would really love to continue talking about this book, so let me know what you think about it in the comments down below. And until next time,